if it is that you really want to become a GRC specialist or a GRC analyst or a GRC professional, and you want to get into the industry to be seen as that industry expert, that industry subject matter expert, then I want to share with you two very fundamental skills or two uh, ways or path that you can actually take to actually get into this particular role of becoming that GRC specialist or GRC analyst. And the first thing that you want to do is, guys, get yourself familiar with what is entailed in the job description of a GRC specialist or a GRC analyst. That's the very first thing. I mean, for sure, at this point, you would have understood all the prerequisites, all the fundamentals in terms of understanding what governance, risk, and compliance is all about. So you would have covered all of those basics, and you at this point wanted to just get into the job market. You want to get that ideal um, GRC role. I mean, for sure, there's no ideal job, but you wanted to possibly this is your first job and you really wanted to get that opportunity. So the first thing, as I said before, is to identify the job role, which is the GRC specialist or GRC analyst role. Secondly, you want to connect with someone, and this is I strongly recommend this, guys. Find someone, find a group of persons or an particular group. There are so many groups on LinkedIn that you can actually subscribe to become a part of. And then you would build relationship with individuals who are actually doing these job functions. You do not want to be jumping into something that you do not understand. And many times this does happen to persons. The name sounds attractive without really understanding the details of what actually takes place within this job function. So that's one of the things that you want to do. So identify the job description, the job role, and then you want to connect your relationship with persons who are already in the industry to find out what it is that they do, what their day-to-day activities and tasks and responsibilities are. And over a period of time, then these persons for sure definitely help you to align in terms of what it is that you need to study, what is it that you need to be practicing, engaging with in terms of activities, what laws, regulations, understand the whole compliance process as it relates to carrying out those GRC functions. So those are the two main things I recommend. And for sure, there are many myriads of advice that persons have as it relates to this. So this is my personal opinion, which I find very effective, right? So as it relates to the GRC specialist or GRC analyst, what we're looking at is understanding the scope, job responsibilities, skills, and prerequisites, right? And for sure, when you think about from a generic perspective, right? When you think about a GRC analyst or a GRC specialist, then this is a professional who specializes in managing and overseeing the governance, risk, and compliance activities within an organization. That's pretty much what it is all about. And your role, I'm assuming that you would definitely want to, so I'm actually placing you in that role. So your role is to ensure that the organization adheres to applicable laws, regulations, and industry standards while effectively managing risk and maintaining appropriate controls. Right? So it's all those elements, right? So the responsibilities of a GRC specialist or analyst can vary for sure based on the organization and the industry that you're operating in. But generally, when you think about that GRC specialist or that GRC analyst, then there are a number of generic responsibilities. You're talking about governance, developing and implementing governance um, frameworks, policies, procedures. I mean, ensuring that there's proper decision making process within the organization, there's accountability, there's transparency within organization, not to mention risk management, which is one of those key functions, right? Identifying, assessing, and mitigating necessary risks that could potentially impact the organization operations, its reputation, or compliance with regulation. Um, Compliance, ensuring that the organization complies with the relevant laws, regulations, on and industry standards. control management, establishing and maintaining internal control systems and processes to safeguard the organization assets, prevent fraud, and ensure operational efficiency. And also, very important is reporting and documentation. And this is where you actually prepare those reports, maintaining those documentation, use the various processes and systems that are associated with the overall management of governance, risks, and compliance activities within your organization. So that's a generic perspective or understanding of the GRC specialist role. So going back to my main points. So know that we have highlighted that point as it relates to the generic rules, responsibility, understanding what is involved in the GRC specialist or GRC analyst. Then let me just quickly share this with you guys, very importantly. So, as I've mentioned earlier, then one of the things that you want to do is to get your hands on an actual job description, right? Let me just go back to, right? So, just to give you a comparison, when you look at a number of these job roles as it relates to governance, risk, and compliance, right? There are a number of similarities that exist in terms of the job descriptions, establish standards, repeatable practices, maintain security, compliance, controls, right? If we should go to, for example, this job role, GRC specialist, and it goes right back down to GRC specialist, you will maintain a foundation of enabling management of systems and data risk, take responsibility for evaluation, creation, and publication of information protection policies, standard, processes, controls, implement and consult on information protection controls. And it goes right back to accountability. Then if we should go to look at a different GRC description as well, then you see similar responsibilities coming out. As a governance, risk, and compliance specialist, you're responsible for strengthening our governance and compliance program to ensure adherence with regulatory requirements, industry best practices. And the list goes on in this job description. And we also go to another job description, and it highlights similar responsibilities, similar duties, assist with driving IT security policies, frameworks, development and implementation, document management, right? Working with various GRC systems that are in place within many organizations. Many organizations use a number, for example, RSA, Archer, OneTrust, and a number of other platforms that are being used within organizations to manage overall GRC functionalities, right? You're talking about audits, IT, developing and maintaining relationship with stakeholders, working with various standards, frameworks, compliance, regulations, planning, implementation, new processes, and looking at the various requirements, being familiar with all of these NIST, PCI, ITRUST, depending on the industry that you're working in, right? So going back to the point, guys, that connect with someone who's in the field. Look for those job roles, IT, GRC analyst, GRC professional, job roles that you want to get into, to see all of these things that are required. And then you say, how can I acquire all of these, or at least 80% of all of these skill sets in terms of all of these activities? Then you do your further research line by line. And for sure, so as we look back at this, the GRC specialist analyst, and let us quickly look at, for example, in this job description, right? Let me quickly. So let's say in this particular job role, so here we have our scope, and that's the scope that is being identified, and these are our job responsibilities. right? In this case, it says develop and implement IT governance policies and procedures in accordance with ISO 27001, PCI DSS, collaborate with IT and business units, perform regular audits of IT systems, processes, and control um, all business units to identify potential risk, conduct risk assessments, and let us go further down, maintain up-to-date knowledge of regulatory requirements, act as a subject matter expert on IT governance, risk management. Goes on, then you look at ensuring that all IT-related incidents and risks are appropriately documented, tracked, reported. So by looking at all of these job descriptions, then you recognize that there's a number of similarities that exist. So what I strongly recommend, guys, is look at these job descriptions. See the things that are the top five or the top, whichever the case is, that are constantly coming out on all of these um, job descriptions. Then you want to find those resources and possibly maybe courses online. There are so many platforms available, free resources that you can actually gain certificates to show that you have actually garnered the necessary knowledge of these things. You can also participate in online webinars, subscribe to magazines, subscribe to various groups that are talking about sharing information about all of these related job functions. Document, post, um, find ways to demonstrate your skill set that you can actually add these to your resume to say that you have experience, you have the knowledge of doing these various tasks that you can actually place on your resume. So you would have looked at the job scope. So let us go back. So this is the job scope, right? So that's the scope of the job. The IT governance specialist is responsible for ensuring that this particular company or organization IT operations are aligned with its overall business goals, comply with regulatory requirements, and effectively manage risk. So that's the scope of this job description. So you want to understand the scope, understand the job responsibilities, ask the questions, how can I get these under these necessary skill set for the job in terms of responsibilities? Then you do further research. Then when you go further, then you look at the skill set. So you're looking at technical skills where you have the hard skills, the soft skills, and all of these are actually highlighted in this particular job description that I am looking on. Right? So in this case, it says that technical skills or the skills are broken down into technical versus hard skills. Right? So reporting, information security and IT governance, risk management and compliance. Right? So these are all the necessary things that you would want to become familiar with. The NIST ISO 3100, 31,000, SABSA, NISA, PCI DSS implementation and audit of ISO 27001, right? Information security policies and procedures, data classification and governance. So conducting the necessary research, then you'll be able to understand, right? And no organization is looking for someone who is knowledgeable of every single thing that is based on this job description. But ensure that you cover the fundamentals. Ensure that you look at this, for example, you'd have done your research, you'll be able to talk about these elements. And as the job requires for you to execute in any one of these areas, then you would take your research um, a bit further to find out more about what is required of each of these activities so that you can gather the necessary um, knowledge base that is required to execute all of these job functions, right? And for sure, then you have those hard skills that are required as you go along, right? So going back, guys, to looking at those fundamental things. So as it relates to the GRC specialist, then you want to look at understand your job description, connect with someone who's actually in the field, and look at the details and the responsibilities of becoming a GRC specialist. And over the next coming weeks, guys, for sure, then I have actually started a series. I will place in a link in this job, in this, sorry, the description for this recording that takes you to two episodes within a series in which I actually take you through all the details of a particular job description. Right? In this case, I'll be taking you through all the requirements of this job description line by line, and we're going to be looking at various practical ways in which we can actually garner the necessary knowledge and skill set for this particular job role. So at the end of this series, then you'll be able to say that I understand what is involved and I'm able to apply for this particular job role based on this series of presentations or this particular um, webinar series that I've actually gone through. So there you have it, guys. And for sure, please do share, subscribe, comment, and so it's all about building each other in terms of increasing and improving our skills as cybersecurity professionals within the industry. So see you in a future recording. I'm Richard Perry, a cybersecurity and GRC enthusiast.